Hello, anybody there?
Hi, Commissioner Fishman.
Hi, Isaac.
Hello.
Good morning, Commissioner Fishman. Isaac, I think that the hearing room with Mr. Chairman might be on the wrong link, might be using the old Zoom link, because I pressed on it and I saw it in there. Do you think that,
Okay, let me send Miguel a message and let him know
okay.
that.
You're right. Sarah sent out a new link.
Yeah. It was her last dastardly trick before moving.
And it worked.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Right.
We can't blame Sarah. I was the one who sent out that link. We just sent it out because the old link was using her account. So we had to send out a new link for my account.
Well, I have to say that Brad and Anthony, you both look far more handsome than I do right now.
Oh. First of all, my cat thanks you.
Well, yeah, Brad's cat always looks pretty handsome.
He's a good looking cat.
Yeah, right. And I like that pose of his, just kind of like.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Sorry for the late start. We were apparently logged on to the old Zoom link.
Is that what happened? I had a little trouble connecting as well.
But I do know that Carl was on the old Zoom link with us before we logged out and logged back into this one. So we may have to wait until Carl logs on. Can somebody call Carl?
Mr. Chair, I can give Carl a call. We're recording the meeting though, so I don't think you need to hold up starting. I think you could start and Carl can go back over the recording, but I will give him a call now.
Okay, then let's begin. Welcome everyone to the Public Regulation Commission's regular weekly meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Roll call, please. I guess Russell or Judy?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll take the roll call. Commissioner Hall.
Unmute.
I'm here.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Here.
Commissioner Fishman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm here.
And Commissioner Byrd.
I'm not here.
Sounds like you maybe. I'm going to count that as here. Mr. Chairman, we have all 5 commissioners present. The meeting may begin.
Great. And I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the State Pledge with background from Commissioner Byrd. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Okay, let's go ahead and go to item 3, consideration and approval of the agenda. I do have a suggested change to defer action on case 18-214-UT. We received, this is in the case of the Rosa Joint Ventures and Sombrito case. There were some very recent filings that staff has requested they look over before we take action and perhaps come up with some options for action. So I'd like to defer action on 18-214-UT. Any other changes besides that amendment to the agenda as presented?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Byrd.
I will move the agenda as amended.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda as amended. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Vice Chair Hall. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. Roll call vote. Russell.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
and Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the agenda as amended is approved unanimously.
All right, thank you, Russell. Let's move on to item 4, introduction of special guests. We have our own Casey Dunn that would like to make a presentation regarding Employee of the Month for May of 2022. Casey, you out there?
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Casey Dunn. I'm the Ambulance and Railroad Bureau Chief in the Transportation Division. And I come before you today to happily announce that the Commission hereby recognizes Mr. Bob Poovey as Employee of the Month for May 2022. Mr. Poovey is a state investigator in the Ambulance and Railroad Bureau of the Transportation Division at the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, and he has worked for the PRC for 1.5 years. Mr. Poovey is an exceptional employee with a wealth of knowledge in the railroad industry. His communication and teamwork skills, as well as his work ethic, are admirable and should be recognized. Mr. Poovey has a great working rapport with our Federal Railroad Administration partners and continuously provides excellent discovery and guidance in the field of railroad hazmat safety. Mr. Poovey is a valuable asset to our organization, and he continues to serve the PRC with dedication and great ability. So with that, I would like to state that, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, since Bob is on the line, I just wanted to congratulate him and thank you for your hard work. It doesn't go unnoticed. Your hard work with the Federal Railroad Administration in the hazmat safety program, ensuring that hazardous materials and dangerous goods are properly and safely transported via rail, is important and valued. And that, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I stand for any questions.
Well, thank you, Casey, for bringing that forward. Any comments from commissioners before we hear from Bob?
I'd really like to get to know Bob. So, Bob, I hope you're on.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
Well, I don't know Bob either, but I do know Casey from a long time ago, and we used to work together at the insurance division. And if she says Bob is this excellent an employee, I believe her. So I thought that was a very nice description of his merits, and I'm proud that he's part of our community.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. Any other commissioners that wish to make some comments before we have Bob come on? All right. Well, as chair, I'm proud to, be a part of this organization. I really value what employees do on a day-to-day basis. They're the backbone of the agency. And so I appreciate everything you do. And let's hear from Bob.
Thank you. Casey, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate everything you said. I'll continue to take care of the public safety.
All right, thank you. And thank you again for everything you do for the agency. Any other final comments before we move on?
Just to say to Bob, I look forward to meeting him again in person. I'm not very good with names, but I'm sure if I see him, I bet I've met him. And I just really appreciate your work, Bob. I remember a case where we had with the railroad and it involved the feds, and it was complicated. So I know what you do is important. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. All right, let's go ahead and move on. I understand there's no public comment, but I just want to double check. Isaac, have there been any late requests to make public comments?
Mr. Chair, no, there have been no signups for public comment today.
Okay, let's move on to consent agenda. Members of the commission, you have the consent agenda before you. Before we have Russell read the case numbers and captions, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Byrd. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Vice Chair Hall. Let's go ahead and have Russell read the captions, and if there's any subsequent discussion, we'll have that. If not, we will take a vote. So go ahead, Russell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There are three matters on the consent action agenda. The first is docket number 22-00021-UT. That is in the matter of the application of BIF for Intrepid Opco LLC for a certificate of registration to provide competitive access provider telecommunications service within the state of New Mexico. That's on for a potential order regarding an application for certificate. The second item is docket number 22-00076-UT in the matter of the filing of the 2022 annual reports and related FCC filings by eligible telecommunications carriers. That's on for potential order regarding petition to open proceeding. And the third and final is docket number 22-00101-UT in the matter of the joint application for the location approval of the Corona Wind North project and for the right-of-way width approval pursuant to the Public Utility Act, NMSA 1978, Section 62-9-3, Dahlia Wind LLC, Galenas Mountain Wind LLC, Pasturo Wind LLC, and Pattern SC Holdings LLC, joint applicants. That's not for a potential initial order, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, roll call vote. Russell.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
and Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we have a unanimous vote to approve the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you, commissioners. Let's move on to regular action items. Under transportation, in the matter of case 21-224-PL, in the matter of amending the pipeline safety excavation damage prevention rule 18.60.5 NMAC. Hans, what do you have for us?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Maestas and commissioners. And of course, may the 4th be with you. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a small group of freedom fighters from the Pipeline Safety Division embarked on a perilous mission, racing against time to amend the Pipeline Safety Excavation Damage Prevention Rule and bring order to the galaxy of New Mexico by converting it from a clock state to a midnight state for purposes of utility line location requests. The commission issued its initial order initiating the proposed rulemaking and notice of proposed rulemaking on January 5th. And essentially this rule would propose changes to the pipeline safety excavation damage prevention rule. Currently, any utility line location requests must be handled in the order they are time-stamped. The changes then would allow the utility line investigator flexibility to respond to multiple inquiries during a same-day period, as long as they are completed by midnight the following day, without having to respond in the time-stamped order of requests. This essentially could save the investigator many hours and miles of unnecessary travel time between locations. On March 15th, 2022, the commission received written comments from New Mexico Gas Company, CenturyLink, and the Pipeline Safety Bureau of the commission. The comments from New Mexico Gas Company and CenturyLink were in full support of the changes. Staff recommended additional language to section 18.60.5.16 to clarify that earth-moving operations were included in the rule. On March 29th, written response comments were filed by New Mexico Gas Company and staff. New Mexico Gas Company again supported the proposed additional changes suggested by staff. On April 5th, 2022, New Mexico Gas Company, IACX Energy, New Mexico Utility Contractors Association, and staff attended the public hearing via Zoom platform. All parties spoke in favor of the proposed changes without objection. The proposed order then adopts the amended proposed changes, including the additional language proposed by staff, sets the amended rule for publication, and authorizes the Office of General Counsel to make any formatting and proofreading changes necessary. Essentially, this is probably there are absolutely no objections whatsoever to the amendments in this proposed rulemaking, and I recommend that the commission adopt the proposed changes and the proposed order. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, any questions for Han Solo?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
Lieutenant Hall here calling in from the bridge, and I would move the order.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Do we have enough power?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, where's your Wookiee?
He's lying on the bed behind me. He's currently taking a nap.
You guys are really loose this morning.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
we have a motion and a second on the floor. Yes.
I want to nominate a new employee of the month for an upcoming month. Thank you, sir.
All right, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the potential final order as presented. All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Russell.
Commissioner Basenti Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Aye.
and Commissioner Fishman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 5-0 in favor of the proposed order.
Thank you, Russell. Let's move on to utility matters. Our next agenda item is in the case of 21-281-UT in the matter of the joint application for the location approval of the expanded Corona Wind Project and the revised Corona Gentile system, and for right-of-way with approval pursuant to the Public Utility Act, NMSA 1978, 62-9-3, Ancho Wind LLC, Cowboy Mesa LLC, Gallinas Mountain Wind LLC, Mesa Canyons Wind LLC, Pattern SC Holdings LLC, Viento Loco LLC, joint applicants, and we will be considering a potential order regarding a recommended decision. So Judy, I'll have you maybe kick it off. I don't know if you want to have Anthony present a summary of the RD. How would you like to proceed? I realize I don't think there's any controversy in this.
Yes.
Judy Amer?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. As Chairman Maestas stated, this matter comes before you upon the joint application of the Corona Wind Companies, which have been detailed. And this matter is uncontested, and Commissioner Fishman requested that Anthony be here. So I would open it up to see if Commissioner Fishman would like to have Anthony detail the order or the recommended decision, that is.
So, Mr. Chair?
Fishman.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is just such a kind of a momentous move forward that I just felt that the public should have just a quick overview of what's happening here. There is no controversy here for me, but I think it'd be nice if Anthony could describe what's happening here and what this means in terms of moving forward with renewable energy, and just kind of put the project in context for the public record.
Absolutely. Without any objection, let's proceed with Anthony providing a summary of this. This is a tremendous project that's going to have longstanding implications to the renewable energy industry here in the state. So with that, if it's okay with you, Judy, let's let Anthony provide a summary. And Anthony, if you can display the parts of the RD that you're referring to, that'd be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, commissioners and Mr. Chairman. Can you see the recommended decision?
Yes,
Good
we
morning.
can.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to go move right to a description in a discussion. In this case, the joint applicants are limited liability companies indirectly held by Pattern Energy. Pattern Energy has developed and constructed in different parts of the world and brought to market approximately 6,000 megawatts of renewable energy power projects. The Corona Wind project itself, it has been part of prior Corona location approval proceedings. The commission has previously granted location approval for up to 2,300 megawatts of wind power facilities located within approximately almost 500,000 acres of private and state land within Lincoln, Torrance, and Guadalupe counties in New Mexico in the cases you see there, 17-221. The first Corona Wind case itself was 1865 UT, and then the 2000 case 20-8 that I'll discuss in a little bit. Altogether, these projects, these proceedings they constitute the Corona Wind project. The historic progression of the projects are shown in Appendix A to the recommended decision. So with that, and with the indulgence of Mr. Chairman, you and the commissioners, I'd like to switch to the maps because I think that tells a better descriptive story than staring at the text on the screen, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely, a great idea.
Thank you. Let's see if I can pull it up now. All right, do you have Appendix A on screen?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Okay, the progression is, it shows there, this is the Mesa Canyons footprint. This was a project in northern Lincoln County that was acquired by Pattern Energy. It's the first of the Corona Wind project cases. You'll notice that Mesa Canyons is one of the limited liability companies listed among the joint applicants. That was followed in 1865 with the first Corona Wind, quote unquote, Corona Wind project there in Guadalupe, Lincoln, and Torrance counties. Following that, there was the approval of another project acquired by Pattern, and that's the Klein's Corners project in case 19-139 UT. So following that, this is the 2000 case where where Pattern came in and withdrew its request for expansion of the area of the Corona project there in gray, but required, and this is important to discuss, to understand, required approval of the reconfiguration of the Gentile system approved in the 2018 case. And so that's what you see there in black. But there was no expansion of the area. Now, moving on to the request here in pink, you'll see the areas that are requested expansion. That's the 200 megawatts of additional wind resources located on 50,100 acres. About 7,500 acres will be on state land, and about 42,520 acres will be located on private lands. But what you see here also, though, importantly, in blue, brown, red, and green is what is known as the Western Spirit Wind Project. That's the 1,050 megawatt wind farm project that is currently operational. That's the largest single phase renewable wind project in North America. Single phase meaning it was all built at once. And so that, while it has parts of previously approved Corona Wind Project cases, combined with what was constructed at the same time in Klein's Corners, and it's tied into the Western Spirit transmission line, that's known as the Western Spirit Wind Project, and that's currently operational. Now, from a statewide perspective, wind resources in New Mexico are generally located, as you see in the map here in Appendix B, are generally located in the central and eastern parts of the state. That's illustrated in Appendix B, which was developed by staff. We greatly appreciate staffs and the Geographic Information Systems Department of Pattern Energy put this together for the commission. It's relevant broadly to this case as a reference point. It's more for context and also for future matters. And as the commissioners rightly noted, this is a significant renewable energy project in not only in North America, but the world. And so I felt it was helpful to get an idea of all the wind projects currently in operation in New Mexico, as well as those publicly known proposed projects. You see in blue there, the Corona Wind Project, those 2,300 megawatts, will be the largest wind project when it's fully completed in 2026, which is the target date. That'll be the largest project probably outside China, probably in the world. Now, when you add what was just designated or assigned to me in case 22-101 UT, that's the Corona Wind North project. That's the next project in the pipeline, which has the commission has just initiated the proceeding. That's in orange there. That's the 1,500 megawatt project. You see to number 27 to the north in Guadalupe and Torrance counties. And you see on there, I highlighted, it's not in the recommended decision, but I highlighted it for purposes of this presentation. The Western Spirit Wind Project is at the bottom of the table there in green. That's the 1,050 megawatts. And then the Corona Wind Project is the first in blue of the publicly proposed projects. And the North Project, the Torrance and San Miguel proceeding that was just initiated, is in orange there. So moving on to the Gentile, the revised Corona Gentile system. Recall I put on screen the Gentile system that was approved in case 20-8. The joint applicants are requesting, and I'm moving to Appendix C, they're requesting approval, location approval, pursuant to the location control statute of the 2021 revised Corona Gentile system, which you see there in blue, with a 1 mile corridor outlining the actual Gentile system that will connect to, as you see here, the green line at the top up by Highway 60 is the Western Spirit transmission line. In any event, to reflect the expansion of this Corona Wind Project, and it's also the result of additional environmental and siting information obtained through an ongoing comprehensive environmental and engineering analysis undertaken in connection with this expansion. The linear length of the 2021 revised Corona Gentile system is 59.2 miles or 312,576 linear feet. The third map, the reason I put the third map in here in part is because it shows the old green proposed line that was approved, Gentile system here in green. At the bottom here below the Western Spirit extension line here that goes up to where in blue, the Gentile line, the new configuration, the proposed configuration is set forth in blue. So together, the generation expansion here, this is the generation expansion. I'll talk about that in a second, but together the generation expansion and the 2021 revised Corona Gentile system are referred to in the application and in the recommended decision as the 2021 Corona Wind Update. Now, this particular map here shows where joint applicants anticipate there will be up to 50 additional wind turbines with a nameplate capacity ranging from 2.3 megawatts to 4.5 megawatts. And the approximate preliminary siting of those turbines is shown there in those little blue dots in the expansion areas. Those are just approximate siting locations. Although the overall nameplate capacity of the wind farm may increase, joint applicants expect the number of turbines to be approximately the same 950 estimated in case number 18-65 UT. The reason that they'll maintain the approximate overall same capacity is because the nameplate for each turbine is expected to be closer to 4.0 megawatts, which is the upper limit in the capacity range of 2.3 to 4.5 megawatts reflected in joint applicants' testimony in this case. In addition, highly critical to this case, perhaps the most significant part, is an updated environmental analysis performed by the joint applicants consultant, Burns and McDonald Energy Company, which you'll see there on the legend of a lot of these maps. It was sponsored and submitted as an exhibit to the direct testimony of Nathan Olday, Burns and McDonald's department manager within the Houston Environmental Services Group. The comprehensive environmental analysis was performed throughout the entire area of the Corona generation expansion, the 2021 Corona Gentile system, and the area for which prior location approval was granted in case number 17221 involving Mesa Canyon's wind farm that pattern acquired. I put that up again, this map up again, because it shows the entire Corona wind update study area, the assessment area for the environmental study. And that's what you see there highlighted in orange at the bottom of this map, Exhibit JA2 to the application, which is derived from the environmental study. Okay, so now getting into a little bit more detail about the revised Corona Gentile system, which is included, of course, on this map that I had up before and I discussed. In case 20-8, the 2000 case, the Gentile system route approved in 1865 was both revised and extended. The Gentile route was revised to include both the reconfiguration of previously approved proposed route outside the previously approved Gentile system study corridor to reflect more current environmental engineering analyses. It was also extended north to allow interconnection to the proposed and now in operation Western Spirit Transmission Project. In this proceeding, However, joint applicants are proposing that the configuration you have there shown on screen. And although the joint applicants have broadened the region, which was evaluated as part of the comprehensive environmental review, thereby arguably eliminating the necessity to identify a narrower 1 mile corridor containing the proposed 2021 Gentile system route, the application still identifies the 1 mile corridor, which contains the proposed route. However, and I have to emphasize this, joint applicants are requesting that the commission approve the location of the 2021 revised Corona Gentile system within the broader, this whole update study area, because of the detailed environmental review and analysis performed over this region. As I indicate in the recommended decision, this is a subtle but nevertheless meaningful departure from past practice in the iterative, data-driven process entailed in Pattern Energy's development of the Corona Wind project. One of Pattern's witnesses, Adam Chernea Clark, the Senior Environmental and Natural Resource Manager for Pattern, explained this is a common practice in project development like Corona Wind, for there to be an adjustment of proposed locations for wind turbines and the associated Gentile system as more information is obtained during site preparation and analysis phases of a project. So while joint applicants acknowledge the 2021 revised Corona Gentile system will ultimately be restricted to a specifically approved right-of-way width, specifically approved by the commission, that is, the Corona Wind project is still under active development, which means there could subsequently, and it's unlikely that the evidence indicates in the case that, well, it's unlikely that the route will change that much, and in fact didn't change that particularly that much from what you see there on screen on this map, from what was previously approved to what is being proposed now back on this map. You see, it's in order to avoid having to come back to the commission for specific approval, joint applicants are proposing that this environmental analysis throughout the entire region encompassed in the 2021 Corona Wind update will allow for more flexibility in making final siting decisions and minimize the need for any subsequent environmental review if siting adjustments are required as a result of unanticipated information becoming available about particular sites and potential environmental impacts. So joint applicants assert that by submitting this more comprehensive environmental review, which I do find is comprehensive in the recommended decision, they have eliminated the need for delaying project construction later to perform subsequent environmental analysis and then obtain a regulatory approval if there is a reasonable and prudent need to relocate a portion of the 2021 revised Gentile system outside the narrow corridor, but still within the 2021 Corona Wind update study area that has been evaluated in this case and presented in this case. Nevertheless, while they do not anticipate any changes like that at this time, joint applicants aver that if any adjustments are needed to be made to the proposed route, those adjustments will be reported to the commission as part of the quarterly reports filed by Pattern Energy on the Corona Wind project, and thereby, as is indicated later in the recommended decision, is subject to staff review of any of those proposed changes. Now,
Mr. Chair. Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair Hall.
Well, I would just like to say I'd like to move this order, to approve this order. I really appreciate the aggressive approach the company has taken to environmental review of impacts. And secondly, I wanted to mention I'm attending a conference which is in its last half day, and unless we need to know the full detail that we're getting now, I'd just like to request that we truncate this discussion a little bit because I need to get back to the conference.
Any objections to cutting to the quick here and taking action on the proposed order? Any objections?
I know Anthony was getting to a final point, Mr. Chair, and I feel rude in interrupting him that way, but time is critical for me. Could Anthony just wrap up that last point?
Hold on a second. I'd like to get a second to this motion.
Okay.
And then under discussion, we can allow Anthony to finish up.
Okay.
Do I hear a second on the motion to move the order?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second by Commissioner Byrd. Under discussion, Anthony, if you could wrap up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. That's my intention here,
Thank you.
is to wrap this up. And this is, like I said right before the Commissioner made the request, the final point is that there's a requirement under the right-of-way width determination statute that the right-of-way width be approved by the Commission. That's my interpretation, at least. You'll see there on this map in yellow and blue, the solid line is a request for the approval of a 200-foot right-of-way width. The remainder in dotted area would be for the 180-foot right-of-way, typically required for single span. The reason for the 200-foot right-of-way width is for a double circuit single pole transmission facility for this portion here shown on this second map in Appendix D. And you'll see the difference here is that the blue here and the yellow indicate the switch yards, where straddling Highway 54 up here, there'll be a segment of double circuit transmission single pole lines, which are economically for this portion and more cost effective. And so with that, I recommend, bottom line is, I recommend approval of the application consistent with the ordering provisions and the findings and conclusions of the recommended decision.
Thank you, Anthony. Any burning questions for Anthony on the RD? All right, hearing none. Yes, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Yes, Anthony, I really appreciate your detailed work, and I know we need to move on with this discussion, but I cannot be more proud than how you display your work and keeping the commissioners informed and moving New Mexico along with renewable energy projects. You just do a tremendous amount of work that's just very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. And I just want to commend the applicants too for doing their diligence in revising the environmental analysis to include the entire footprint, including the proposed expansion, because oftentimes we get caught up in what's called segmentation, where you get incremental expansions of a project like this without proper context in the way of a full environmental analysis of the entire footprint. So I think that is very safe going forward. And this is an incredible project. I'm so excited about the scope, the potential of it, including the transmission component. So anyway, I commend the applicants for that. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would just say, I've been in a number of conferences over the past month, and I'm always asked about this project. People always are just fascinated with it. I think it's something we really can be proud of.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Hall. Commissioner Fishman.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think we're good for a vote. I would like Anthony to stay on for a minute after Commissioner Hall leaves, because I had a couple questions about export, but nothing that affects the vote.
I'm not going to leave after this case. I have to sit through the other case. Is this,
Okay.
oh, we have a closed session too. I'm going to participate in that. So I'm
Oh,
interested
okay.
in those questions. That's fine.
So real quickly, Anthony, they're producing a lot more energy here than New Mexico can consume. So the intent, I believe, is to send that to the West Coast. Are there any particular transmission issues or things that the commission will be acting on in order to facilitate that going forward?
Yeah, my earbuds cut out for a second, but as I understand the question, you're asking about transmission issues to get this wind power to market, which largely will be going to Arizona and California. Is that
Correct.
right?
Correct.
The transmission issues, they reconfigured, they being Pattern, reconfigured part of the project to connect to Western Spirit. As indicated in the recommended decision, and in my haste to get through it, I skipped over the part that this is still intended at the southern end of the project to connect to the SunZia transmission system. That SunZia transmission system, however, likely will not be coming before the Commission for Location approval, is my understanding. Now, this is generally from outside the record. We've already discussed the recommended decision. This is based on media reports and a little research I did. But, and again, this isn't official, but my understanding is that given that the project has a partner in the New Mexico Renewable Energy Transition Authority, there is an exception in that the New Mexico RETA Act that excludes projects acquired or which New Mexico RETA is a partner in from the jurisdiction and supervision and regulatory control of the commission. So the federal approvals, I suppose, for, and this was just recently in the news, I think, with the BLM or whatever federal approvals were required, they've gotten preliminary approval. The SunZia project, of which New Mexico Renewable Energy Transmission Authority is a partner, and pursuant to a memorandum of understanding, that project is outside the location control or siting approval of the commission.
Okay, thank you. And SunZia, by the way, boy, they've been like 14 years or something trying to get that thing going. So just a little context there.
Yeah, and by the way, yeah, of course, I skipped over another part. I assume obviously the commission knows that SunZia came for location approval in, I think it was 2018, if I'm not mistaken, around that time frame. But that ultimately that application, at least with regard to location approval, was rejected. That application was rejected by the commission. And so, however it worked out, New Mexico RETA became the transmission authority, became entered into a memorandum of understanding, and pursuant to a section of the NMPRC Act, of course, the project by New Mexico RETA being involved is no longer subject to the location approval of the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other final questions either for Anthony or Judy regarding the order or the RD? We have a motion and a second on the floor. We're in discussion. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. Oh, yes, Commissioner. Yes, Judy.
I just want to state, that the proposed order that you're voting on would adopt, approve, and accept the recommended decision in its entirety.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hearing no further discussion, Russell, roll call vote.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Aye.
and Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the proposed order is approved 5-0.
Thank you, Russell. Of course, we deferred action on 18-214-UT. So let's move on to potential executive closed session. Judy, I'm not going to read the caption. Under regular action items, item 9 in case 18-383-UT, we do have a recommended order that represents a partial compromise to this case, and it's a partial compromise basically secured by staff. And so my question is there really a need to go into closed session?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, there's not necessarily a need to go into closed session. I placed the possibility on the agenda in case the commission wanted to discuss the most recent litigation filings in the New Mexico Supreme Court in dockets SC 37948 and SC 38302. There was a third appeal filed by Socorro Electric, and there was a writ of mandamus prohibition filed also by Socorro Electric against the commission. And if the commission would like to discuss those, that pending litigation, we can go into closed session. If not, we can do the proposed order in open session. So it's the commission's choice.
Thank you, Judy. So members of the commission, you've read the memo and the proposed order. If I suppose if you have heartburn or have certain legal questions regarding the current litigation and status of the Supreme Court appeal, we can go into closed session. I myself am fine with the potential order in this partial compromise. So I don't see a need to go into closed session, but I want to just put it to the rest of the commission. What's your desire?
Mr. Chair, I do not
Yes.
see a compelling reason to go into closed session.
Okay, if there are no objections, then we will skip the executive closed session and go straight to hearing this in the open meeting. Okay, hearing no objections, our next agenda item is in case 18-383-UT in the matter of the filing of device notice number 69 by Socorro Electric Cooperative, Inc. And we will be acting on a potential order. So with that, Judy, can you summarize for us? Thank you.
Yes, I'll try to summarize as briefly as possible. This matter comes before you most recently upon March 30th, 2022 revised compliance order to show cause why SEC should not book as regulatory assets or regulatory liabilities the amounts not billed in violation of the final order, in order for SEC to cease and desist its violation of the final order, which I'll call the revised compliance order because previously we had another compliance order in 2020. It also comes upon a filing on April 7th, 2022 by Socorro Electric of a second emergency motion to stay the revised compliance order. And upon an April 8th, 2022 order by the commission, which appointed a hearing examiner, Christopher Ryan, to deal with the order to show cause and the order to cease and desist, and in order for responses to SEC's motion to stay. In SEC's motion to stay, they argued that they don't have to comply with the final order or the revised compliance order because for the similar reasons that they've been arguing since the beginning of this case, is that they believe the commission exceeded their jurisdiction over rural electric cooperatives, and the costs are prohibited, according to Socorro Electric, to send the certified mail return receipt requested. And in addition, they are unable to determine through their software system amounts not billed in violation of the final order. On April 15th, Utility Division staff submitted a response to this motion to stay. And staff has consistently maintained and continued to assert in its response that since the commission issued its final order in September 11th, 2019, SEC must follow the directives set forth by the commission in that final order, unless or until the commission or the New Mexico Supreme Court takes action to stay or vacate the order, and that has not occurred. Staff has repeatedly stated that New Mexico public utilities, including rural electric cooperatives subject to regulation by the commission, must comply with final order directives unless the court or the commission stays a final order. Staff stated SEC cannot be allowed to simply ignore the rate design set by the commission in that case. However, staff suggested a possible compromise. They stated, and I'll quote, in order to obtain that compliance, staff would be willing to accept the following compromise. One, SEC immediately files an advice notice with the commission in compliance with the rates approved in the commission's final order of September 11th, 2019, and implements those commission approved rates within 30 days. Two, should SEC file the advice notice as recommended above, staff would not object to the commission waiving or removing its requirement that the cooperative send notice that had been attached to the revised compliance order. And then three, should SEC file the advice notice as recommended above, SEC staff would further recommend that the existing fines from the initial compliance order of April 15th, 2020 to be revisited upon the ultimate resolution of the appeal by the New Mexico Supreme Court and any subsequent order of the commission that may be necessary. In the alternative, staff stated that if...
Judy, excuse me, can you repeat that third point again, please?
Oh, staff would further recommend, should SEC file the advice notice as recommended above, that the existing fines arising from the initial compliance order of April 15th, 2020, to be revisited upon ultimate resolution of the appeal by the New Mexico Supreme Court and any subsequent order of the commission that may be necessary. In the alternative, staff stated if SEC chose to reject the compromise, staff would oppose the relief requested by Socorro Electric because there's no demonstration of an actual emergency. They're the same arguments they've been making all along that were previously rejected by the commission in their initial compliance order and in their revised compliance order. And all of the harm that SEC claims it's suffering are completely caused by its failure to comply with the final order. And if SEC had simply followed the directives of the commission in the final order, they would not be faced with either penalties or the IT work it now claims is too onerous to perform. The city and New Mexico Tech originally opposed the motion to stay. SEC on April 18th filed a reply stating that it agreed staff's proposed compromise was a reasonable compromise of the existing controversy relating to the stay, and states that if the commission waives or removes the requirement that SEC send notice to its customers that was attached to the revised compliance order, which they claim would be at least $100,000, and if the commission agrees to revisit the existing fines arising from the initial compliance order of April 15, 2020, upon ultimate resolution of the appeal at the New Mexico Supreme Court and subsequent commission orders, SEC will agree to immediately file an advice notice in compliance with the rates approved in the commission's final order of September 11, 2019, and will implement those rates within 30 days, as proposed in paragraph 1 of staff's proposal. However, that seemed to be their position, although on April 27th, 2022, SEC filed an emergency motion to stay the revised compliance order and several different writs in the New Mexico Supreme Court, and filed a third notice of appeal, appealing the revised compliance order. That being said, the hearing examiner on April 28th filed a simple order asking if that subsequent filing in the Supreme Court has changed SEC's position regarding accepting the compromise. And SEC replied stating that no, it would still accept the compromise, and it would go to hearing if the commission deemed that was necessary. I am recommending, and obviously it's up to the commission, that in the proposed order that staff and SEC sign an agreement within 7 days of this order containing the terms of the proposed compromise. And then also within 7 days of this order, SEC will file an advice notice as it agreed to do, and that advice notice would need to be approved by staff within 5 days of the filing. And then within 30 days of this order, SEC will implement the rates as in the filed advice notice that implement the 2019 final order. And then contingent upon staff and SEC filing a joint notice of compliance with the compromise that I've just detailed, that's going to be written and placed into and filed in this docket, the revised compliance order and the compliance order would be stayed until the New Mexico Supreme Court issues an order and mandate in the appeal of the final order and the other two appeals of the compliance order and the revised compliance order. The reason I'm recommending approval of this is because it's been at 2.5 years since the final order was entered, and the commission has repeatedly tried in every way it could think of to get our Sapporo Electric to implement the rates in the final order. And I see this as very, very good that SEC is now willing to implement the rates in the final order, as long as the commission agrees to not pursue at this time any fines, just put all of it on hold until the Supreme Court issues a final decision. And I stand for questions.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
So I take it, and this is a question to Judy. Our main concern is to get the rates implemented so that the co-op can enjoy an increase in their revenues so they can perform better work. I mean, why would we go ahead.
Oh, the final order in this case did not approve the rate increase, but it was a reallocation of rates.
That's right. That's right. And so we want to see that happen. That's why you're advising that we just go forward with making these concessions to previous requirements that we wanted to impose, such as the fines and the requirement to issue notice of this litigation.
Nothing will change the fact that SEC has not complied since September 11th, 2019. So the issue of the fines is still up in the air based upon those months of noncompliance. That being said, the reasons that the commission were going to impose the fines were in hopes of getting SEC to file the advice notice and implement the new rates as detailed in the final order. And now they are willing to do that. So I see that as a very substantial move forward.
I guess my concern is, and I appreciate that the way we had ordered them previously to issue notice was with return receipt request, which makes it more expensive. And I understand that's an expensive proposition. On the other hand, I'm concerned that if there's no notice issued, I feel that the community isn't kept abreast of what's happening. And since they're the ones whose rate allocation is at stake, it seems unjust to me to not notify them in some way. And I'm also troubled by the fact that this sort of use of use as a lever by the co-op of the what appears to be kind of an inherent delay at the Supreme Court might be something that other co-ops look at if they don't like how we want them to do rate allocation in the future, for example. I mean, I don't know if these tactics they're using in this case are some that'll be copied by other co-ops in the future. I mean, we issued them a valid order. They have resisted complying until a final decision by the Supreme Court. And, I can understand that. And I think we've been very understanding I think we've been very cooperative, saying if they just comply, then we would not impose fines. We could withdraw the imposition of the fines. But I'm just concerned that all this is going on and the people who are served by this co-op may be kept quite a bit in the dark, and they're the members, I guess, of the co-op. So to me, I just think it's a rather outrageous situation. I guess I was the person who was saying this needs to be return receipt requested, because I see that practice used in other industries, and And, it seemed like a reasonable common business practice, in my opinion. And I don't think it's something the company can't afford. Nevertheless, I don't want to press for anything that would cause any further expense to be imposed on the ratepayers. But I could foresee, just requiring them to, add some sort of additional language on their bill, at least providing some modicum of notice, or maybe a publication in the local paper or something, maybe something on social media if they have or on their website. But it just seems like too much of a disregard of the interests of their customers they're serving to not provide some sort of notice about what the posture of the case is. And I welcome your comments on that. If you feel I'm thinking this is too big an issue in the light of the whole case, I would like you to tell me. And even though you're giving me legal advice in public, I accept that. But I'd like to hear on that point. And if you can settle my mind about why we should go forward with your advice, given these concerns.
Commissioner Hall, I really agree with everything you've said. I agree that the customers need to know, and maybe there is a less costly a prohibitive way of doing it. Nevertheless, I have never experienced a situation where any rural electric cooperative has, basically racked up so many expenses in litigation fees simply to not comply with a commission final order.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I totally agree with staff that anything to stop that from happening is really the most important thing. The two most important things are having the final order implemented as soon, within 30 days. And the second most important thing is to prevent the customers from having to pay for all this unnecessary litigation. So my recommendation is to take the compromise that SEC is willing to do in order to get those two things accomplished.
Could you state again what you said was the most important thing? Because it came through sort of garbled in my computer.
The most important thing is to get the final order implemented within 30 days. We have been working on that since September 11th, 2019. It is now May 4th, 2022. That's almost 3 years.
Yeah.
And in those 3 years, Socorro Electric has, I can't even imagine how much it's incurred in litigation costs simply to not comply. And staff's compromise would do two things. One, it would do the most important thing, which is to get the final order implemented in 30 days. And two, it would stop the Socorro Electric's customers from continuing to incur legal fees.
But we can disallow their legal fees in a future case, can we not?
They do not come to us unless they submit an advice. Rural electric cooperatives have to submit to our jurisdiction by filing an advice notice increasing rates. So not
If they were to impose those fees, wouldn't they have to increase rates?
And then if they did that, hypothetically, we wouldn't have jurisdiction unless there were the requisite number of protests filed, which is 1% or 25 members, whichever is less. So,
And that was achieved once before. That's what began this whole fight, right? There was actually quite
That's
a
correct.
few
but
complainants.
that's not a given.
So basically, if we get outgunned, by a co-op, they can avoid what we thought was just treatment toward them based on the current status of the law.
The way I would phrase it is that the New Mexico legislature has enacted statutes that create a limited jurisdiction of the commission over rural electric cooperatives.
Okay, well, I think this is important information to draw to the attention of the legislature, because this is the way I see this case. I think there's, well, I can't call it an abusive process, but I would just say it's very vigorous legal representation on behalf of the co-op that is absolutely taking advantage of this limited generation in a circumstance where I think we've tried as much as we can to provide justice to the consumers, but we're being thwarted just by the co-op's ability to use the process to the extent they are. So I guess that's all I have to say about this.
And one more thing regarding the notice, there are less costly ways to send notice to customers, such as a bill stuffer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what Socorro Electric's position is regarding that.
So do you think they'd be willing to do that? I mean, can you?
I truly don't know, because I haven't had any communications with them due to expertise rules.
So does your advice change today?
Not regarding the ultimate resolution, I agree that we could accept staff's compromise. We could ask Socorro Electric what type of notice they would be willing to provide, and then find out if that's acceptable to us, and then have that included in the written compromise that the proposed order sets out.
I'd like to see that opportunity. Of course, it depends on what my fellow commissioners would like to do, but I would propose that modification to your proposed order.
Yeah, if we let them choose the type of notice that they send out, I think we have a likelihood of success on that, but I can't say for sure one way or the other.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Fishman.
Yeah, I'm supportive of the idea of asking or requiring Socorro Electric's part of this settlement to let us know how they're going to notify the customers. Statement stuffer could be a lot cheaper. They might want to do a few radio ads, which can be pretty inexpensive, quite frankly. So I think it is quite reasonable to ask how they're going to give notice. What Commissioner Hall has characterized as aggressive legal representation, I see a little differently. I think they've flouted well-established legal processes and principles, and shown huge disrespect to the commission and to the law. and quite frankly, to their customers
Absolutely.
and their members by incurring these expenses and in what I view as an illegal course of action. And I just want to say that I hope that the co-op membership understands how far astray and how irresponsible the co-op management and board has been in this process, and act accordingly. And that's really all I have to say about this. I'm in favor of the order with the amendment that Commissioner Hall has recommended.
Mr. Chair, I concur with Commissioner Fishman's remarks.
All right, thank you. So the modification, I'd rather have it, instead of a question of how they're going to notify their customers, I'd like it to be more proactive. So maybe Vice Chair Hall, if you could restate that, instead of including an inquiry as an amendment to this proposed order, that we include a requirement. For example, that all members be notified through their bill stuffer.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Sure. Let's word it that way. That's fine.
All right.
I have a question. What exactly do you want the notice to entail? Because the original notice we had attached to the revised compliance order is really now superseded by what we're doing.
Can you say that again, Judy? That I couldn't quite hear you.
The original notice that we had attached to the revised compliance order has been.
Can other people mute themselves? I hear paper rustling.
Has been superseded by what we've done here today. And we need this notice provision to be written into the compromise. So I would include that as a term of the written and signed compromise, that SEC will give notice, but what exactly are they giving notice of? They could say something as simply as, on 2019, the commission issued a final order, and we're now implementing the rates of the final order. That would be a very simple notice, all the way to a very not simple notice, and I think the less simpler, the more SEC is going to protest. But I don't know for sure. But if you have a very detailed notice about all the litigation that's been filed and the history, I'm not sure SEC will agree to do that. So that's why I'm saying, and I respect what Commissioner Maestas suggested, but this is the reason that I think we need to see and hear from SEC about what kind of notice they are willing to send out.
Judy, if I may, I know that in the most recent order, we actually drafted the notice. And I think what you're saying is we should have a more explicit notice that's attached to this order that we want them to send out, perhaps not by registered mail, which was our original. And the contents of the notice is going to reflect this compromise. But what I did like about the notice was the background and all the litigation. And maybe the co-op membership are aware of this, maybe they're not. And so I'm wondering if we have enough to go on verbally to say that, okay, let's attach a revised notice that, and we use the previous one that we approved and attach that to the order and require that that be provided to the members.
They have expressed in writing that they do not want to send out that notice. So that would basically kill the compromise.
Well, but
That
it
is
was the registered
something-
mail. That was the issue, the cost associated with the registered mail.
Right. However, I also think that was just part of it, but I don't know for sure. That's why I'm recommending hearing from them as to, or here's another idea, having staff and SEC as part of the written compromise, agree to a form of notice.
So Judy, are you saying we should postpone a decision today to let that play out?
No, I think we can accept the order, have them file a written compromise. And in the compromise, staff and SEC will agree to a form of written notice and method of notice. And I think that we have already allowed staff to take the lead in proposing a compromise, and they have already been able to get SEC to agree to the compromise, and hopefully those two parties will be able to agree on the form and method of notice.
It doesn't sound like a full compromise if they haven't confirmed that form of notice. And I agree with Mr. Chair there, that our chairman, that it was useful to have that much information in it.
Well, I'm trying to get the compromise agreed to. I feel like, we have a fish and now we need to reel it in. And the way to reel it in is to approve the compromise and let the two parties file a signed written compromise that includes the term about notice.
Let's proceed with that. Vice Chair Hall, are you okay with that? I know you,
Yeah,
I don't think you move the order with that amendment, but if you're agreeable with that amendment, that we go forward, approve the compromise, but yet include a condition to have staff work with Socorro on the content and the form of the notice.
yeah,
Customers.
I agree.
Okay, could you maybe put that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I would like to move the orders proposed by General Counsel's office to include a directive that as part of the compromise terms, that staff and Socorro reach an agreement on the terms of the notice that will go out to the public.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I will second.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Fishman. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. Roll call vote. Russell.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
No.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
and Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 4 in favor of the modified proposed order and 1 against.
All right, thank you, and thank you, Judy, for that. Let's move on
Mr.
to the
Chairman.
next agenda. Yes, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to explain my vote.
Yes, please.
Yes, there was an order granting Socorro Tech and staff to work on the fines and the violations, and including $1,000 per day. This is a discussion we had back in March 23rd, 2022. And we also understand that this case has been, we've ordered Socorro to file a notice of advice since 2 years ago, and they continue to challenge the commission. And now they are Socorro Electric Co-op, from what I understand, with all the background and the proposed order that the commission voted on, is that we are shifting the payments from the co-op towards the towards the legal team representing Socorro Tech, rather than paying the fine and the violations, which was approximately over $185,000 just from 1 month ago. So the vote today shows that the legal team is working very hard, and maybe they're working very hard to probably waive the penalties and the fees that's attached to this order. So I don't think it was a very good way to address it today, but I will go with what the commission has voted on. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. So I assume your vote is still against, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
All right.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Fishman.
Just one final comment. I totally agree with what Commissioner Vicente Aguilar has said. This has cost everybody time, money, and resources unnecessarily. And I believe the blame lays squarely at the feet of the SEC board and management. And, you know, I regret that this is how we have to do this. And I'm hoping a future commission, when they have this case come before them, you know, look at that carefully when the issue of the fines is finally addressed. So thank you for those comments, Commissioner Vicente Aguilar. I appreciate them.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, well, thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Vice Chair Hall.
Yeah, I completely agree with Commissioner Vicente Aguilar as well. And but my take would be that we need to try to communicate with the legislature about the fact that the jurisdiction we have over co-ops right now permits this egregious situation to occur. And it's partially egregious because of the delays before the Supreme Court for PRC cases. And I believe I saw somewhere, I don't know whether there was a Constitution or the PUC statute, that the Supreme Court was supposed to treat PUC cases with some speed. I forget the particular phraseology, but our cases are such that the delay before the Supreme Court can be taken advantage of, and that's what's happening in this case. And I feel it's a wrong committed on the consumers of the co-op, and I totally agree with Commissioner Fishman and Commissioner Vicente Aguilar about the behavior of the co-op, and I'm very frustrated about it. And I'm only reluctantly voting in favor of this action today out of respect for the advice from General Counsel and staff's reasonable effort to try to reach some sort of conclusion in this case. So, but I think it's a very frustrating situation. And I really do think, even though we are an outgoing commission, we probably ought to communicate. We should communicate to the legislature in no uncertain terms about the problems that are arising from this type of case and from our limited jurisdiction over co-ops.
Thank you, commissioners. If you can all mute, please. Yeah, this is such a disappointing case for me to see it become so litigious. I would have preferred a more global compromise, but in terms of the reallocation of the rates, I think this is something we've been asking for and has been our primary request aside from all the litigation and appeals. So I want to thank staff for putting this compromise together. Maybe temperatures will go down and we can move forward and really resolve the other issues, especially the pending fines. So I want to shout out to staff as well. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. It's two cases. It's case 20-69-UT in the matter of the adoption of an immediate emergency rule prohibiting discontinuation of residential customer public utility service during the time period of the governor's executive orders 2020-004 through 2020-0010. Also, it's in the matter of 20-205-UT in the matter of the temporary moratorium on residential utility disconnections during the time period COVID-19 pandemic emergency orders are in effect as authorized by 17.9.560, 1710, 650, 1712, 760 NMAC. We will have a discussion and potential action regarding reporting requirements. Very briefly, I think I brought this up at the previous open meeting. In a recent meeting with all the rural electric co-op general managers, they voiced concern over the burden of the reporting requirements associated with both of these cases. They do have limited staff. And so, and this is not, I guess, a sign that the pandemic is past us, but I would say the height of the pandemic impacts in the form of arrearages and potential disconnections. It's far past its peak. And the information that's already being provided may not be necessary. And if need be, we can have John Reynolds come and speak to the information that's being submitted in conjunction with both of these two cases. But the bottom line is this is an effort just to reduce the reporting requirements associated with both these cases. Obviously, any information that's compiled during their normal course of business can be requested by the agency. And so I asked Judy to take the lead on both of these changes. We have two orders, I believe, for each case. And Judy is very familiar with the original cases. So with that, Judy, do you mind just explaining the differences? And then if there are any questions regarding the utility of the information that we require, we can have John come up and answer any questions that commissioners may have. So with that, Judy, do you mind just summarizing the changes that we're proposing? Judy, are you there? Is she on, Isaac or Russell? Do we lose her?
Mr. Chair, it looks like she is still connected. There were some issues with her microphone earlier. So she might be trying to connect from another machine. It shows she's still connected, but her video's off and her audio is off right now. I will try to call her on her phone.
And, we can always just come back to this agenda item and we can move forward with HR Policy 13. Any objection to that? All right, let's move on. I'd like to call up Wayne to discuss regarding updates to the press policy. Let me change the mic on or there we go. All right, Wayne, please go ahead and then we'll come back to the previous agenda item.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. It's nice to see everybody this morning.
Good morning.
The review of our press policy was instigated, I guess you would say, by Commissioner Fishman several weeks ago. At that time, Judy pointed out that our media policy hadn't been updated since 2004. So it's certainly timely that we discuss this, review it, and make modifications as the commission sees fit in light of the many changes that have happened since 2004. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you remember where you were in 2004. I do. I was actually living outside of the country in Nigeria, but I did a little Google search about the year 2004 and found some interesting facts that I had probably forgotten. Just a couple of them, Mr. Chairman. In 2004, there was a new website that was launched called the Facebook. I don't know if you remember or not. I hadn't. I didn't remember that Facebook originally was called the Facebook. I think they made a good strategic decision to shorten that to just Facebook. With that, Facebook launched in 2004. The Boston Red Sox won their first World Series since 1918 in 2004. And yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Tom Brady won another Super Bowl in the year 2004. Ronald Reagan passed away in the year 2004, and George W. Bush defeated John Kerry for a second term as president in 2004. And finally, Mr. Chairman, the more things change, the more they stay the same. In 2004, gas prices hit an all-time high at $1.74 a gallon. So a lot has changed, Mr. Chairman, but the policy before you really is more of an update as opposed to a change. We're not really changing how we've operated. We haven't changed. We're not really changing how certainly we've operated at a staff level since I've been with the commission. The updated policy continues to exempt commissioners and their staff from the policy. You are free to continue to communicate with the media. You and your staffs are free to continue communicating with the media as you see fit and to be responsive to them. But the policy does reiterate that we do believe that it is our responsibility to respond in a timely manner to the media. We don't see the media as adversaries. We see them as partners, and we see it as owing both them and the public to be responsive to requests from the media. Because, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if in 2004 we had a public information officer, but we do now. That's an important position that we can expect to continue to have here at the commission. We've added the public information officer to the policy. We've noted the existence of, again, social media that may not have existed in 2004 when this policy was last reviewed and updated. But generally, Mr. Chairman, I think what this policy does is, as I said, it kind of updates what our practice has been, which is when staff is contacted by a member of the media, that they bring that to the attention of the public information officer and the chief of staff so that they can make sure that we respond to that outreach in a timely manner. This is not meant to control how we respond to the media, but it really is meant to ensure that we are, number one, being responsive, and that the proper staff is responding to media requests. I don't, Mr. Chairman, you're well aware of this. I don't have the technical expertise to respond to a lot of the media inquiries that we get. That's why you don't see my name in the newspaper very often. But I do want to be aware of the contacts as they come in. And play a role, which I think is an appropriate role for the public information officer and the chief of staff in making sure that the appropriate staff who do have the technical expertise to respond to those inquiries are asked to do so. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions. We're happy to also accept any modifications. No document is perfect. We're bringing this to you for your consideration and amendment as you see fit. It's staff's role to propose, and it's your role to dispose. And thank you to Chairman Fishman and Commissioner Fishman and also Commissioner Vicente Aguilar, who have encouraged staff to take a look at this policy and make sure it's updated to fit our current needs in the year 2022.
Thank you, Wayne. Thanks for the trivia. 2004. That seemed like yesterday. So we have Resolution 5-4-22 that basically represents our formal approval of the updated press policy. So before we take action on the resolution, are there any questions regarding the updates to the press policy? Any questions? Okay, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve resolution 5-4-22?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Byrd and a second by Commissioner Fishman. Any discussion on the motion?
Made a great team.
All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Russell,
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
aye.
and Commissioner Byrd.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 5-0 to adopt the resolution.
All right, since we have Wayne here in the hot seat, why don't we go ahead and continue on to communications with Chief of Staff, and then we'll go back to case 20-69-UT. That's okay with everyone? So communications with Chief of Staff. Wayne, do you have anything to report?
A couple of things, Mr. Chairman, happy to continue on. First of all, I want to echo the comments that certainly Casey made and commissioners made as well about Bob Poovey as the employee of the month. As I reported to the commission several months ago, I had an opportunity to go out with him on a railroad inspection. He's a very valuable member of our staff. As you can tell from his own remarks, he's a man of few words. But it's hard to find people of that caliber with that level of expertise. People don't understand, you do, Mr. Chairman, but how complicated what we do here is in a wide variety of areas. And Bob's one of those people that you could search for a long time and not find that level of expertise that he has. So we're fortunate to have him. I wanted to echo the comments that were made about him. A little bit of bad news, Mr. Chairman. I sent an email this morning. Another very, very valuable member of our staff, long-term valuable member of our staff, Ryan Jimenez, has informed us that he has a new opportunity for him in his career and will be moving on from the PRC. He let us know this week his last day in the office, I believe, is next Friday. Hopefully at next Wednesday's meeting, we can convince him to come and hear the many good things that I'm sure will be said about him, but certainly are happy for him, sad for us, but happy for him and his family, and wish him the best in his new endeavor. With that, Mr. Chairman, happy to talk about any other topics you would like to discuss.
All right, thanks, Wayne, for that report. Any questions for Wayne? Any questions at all? All right, thank you, Wayne.
Hopefully Judy's back by now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's move back up.
I am.
Okay,
I-
good, Judy, you're back.
I was on my computer. Now I'm on my phone. My phone is for some reason way more reliable. I could hear everything people were saying, but I couldn't unmute. It was very frustrating. That being said, I'm here now and I'll talk about the two proposed orders. First, in 20-00205, on February 3rd, 2021, the commission issued an order containing the following reporting requirements that resulted. These are reports for information that the utility would provide us regarding basically the fallout from the moratorium against disconnections that the commission implemented during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And in paragraph E of the February 3rd order, it required all public utilities to file monthly informational filings within 15 days of the expiration of each monthly period on the same date as required in a case 20-00069. In the June 24th, 2020 order. And this is the information that we requested. With respect to residential ratepayers, A, the number of disconnection notices issued, the number of disconnections actually made, the number of subsequent reconnections made, the communications or attempts at communications. The commission finds in this order that public utilities have consistently filed the monthly reports since the February 3rd order, containing generally the required information, and that since that date, as Commissioner Maestas said, it appears that the numbers of all of these parameters are close to pre-pandemic levels. That being said, the public health orders have been extended through May 16th by the governor and the Department of Health, and the commission finds that the public utilities regulated by the commission shall continue to file the informational reports as required by the February 3rd order, but it shall be twice yearly, on no later than June 30th and no later than December 31st. So that's the first order. And the second order is in case number 20-00069. And in that case, there was a June 24th order. And this case originally was opened as an emergency rule change and transitioned from that original case to a joint motion being filed in that case by EPE, Gas Company, PNM, SPS, for an accounting order authorizing the creation of a regulatory asset by public utilities regulated by the commission to track and record as a regulatory asset and defer expenses resulting from each utility's response to the governor's public health orders brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. And on June 24th, 2020, the commission issued an order that authorized public utilities regulated by the commission to create regulatory assets for accounting deferral of COVID-19 related uncollectible arrearages and other expenses incurred during the period beginning March 11th, 2020, through the termination of the governor's executive orders. And the order did not create any specific type of rate treatment, and it didn't make any determinations on prudence or the appropriateness and reasonableness of costs. It only allowed the utilities to create a regulatory asset. And in addition, it required in paragraph G, the utilities who are tracking the regulatory asset treatment to make monthly informational filings within 15 days of the expiration of each monthly billing period, detailing the monthly and total delinquencies from the November 2019 billing period to that month. The number of residential customers that would be subject to termination under the utility's normal procedures, the average value of arrearage for individual delinquent accounts, and the total value of arrearage for all delinquent accounts. In addition, it required in paragraph E, public utilities choosing to create a regulatory asset shall file quarterly reports concerning usage, increased costs, and offsetted savings within 30 days of the end of each quarterly period within the deferral period. And the first report would cover the period March 11th, 2020 through June 30th, 2020. Similarly, this order would require those monthly and quarterly filings to be made by annually, no later than June 30th and December 31st. So both orders are different but similar in the sense that they have the same result of reducing the frequency of filing informational reports to twice a year.
Is that it, Judy?
Yes.
Okay, I think just to maybe go back a bit, when the pandemic was really at its peak, I think we were engaged in issuing orders in spurts consistent with the governor's public health orders. And, obviously, our authority, our legal authority to implement a mandatory moratorium on utility disconnections rested with the governor's public health orders. And so I think what we did is we heard from the utilities, they needed greater certainty instead of implementing a moratorium in increments of 30 to 45 days. We implemented a long-term order that really represented a deviation from the governor's public health orders to allow the co-ops first and then the investor-owned utilities to begin working with their customers and work out payment plans. We also were very proactive in having all the utilities fill out a W-9, which allows them to receive money through the state's financial system. And that was in an effort to help facilitate the flow of federal pandemic assistance to ratepayers, not just of IOUs, but to co-ops that were experiencing arrearages and facing disconnection. And so I think this agency was very proactive in doing that, but also we're listening to the impacts of this pandemic on the co-ops. We reduced the record-keeping burden associated with call notes regarding disconnections. We understand and we hear the co-ops that they have limited staff resources to meet these reporting requirements. But as Judy mentioned, we're hopefully past the peak and we're reaching pre-pandemic levels of arrearages and disconnections, but yet we're not totally eliminating the reporting requirement. And I think Commissioner Fishman said, he recommended a reduced but not an eliminated reporting requirement. And so both orders basically are reducing the frequency of the reports. There's no other material changes to those existing orders. And so with that, I'm going to open the floor up to any questions regarding these potential changes to both cases. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Fishman.
I think this is eminently reasonable and I'd like to move the order.
Is this the order associated with 20-69-UT?
With both.
With both. Okay, let's do that. I think we can do that.
Yeah, I'll second them.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the orders as presented for both cases, 20-69-UT and 20-205-UT. And we have a second by Commissioner Byrd. Any discussion on the motions to adopt both orders? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote. Russell.
Commissioner Fishman,
Aye.
Commissioner Byrd,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Aye.
Commissioner Vicente Aguilar,
Aye.
and Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote is 5-0 to adopt both proposed orders.
Great, thank you, Russell, and thank you, commissioners, and thank you, Judy, for taking the lead in this. All right, let's move on to communications with General Counsel. Judy, Russell, are you presenting on behalf of OGC?
Mr. Chairman, we have no communications, but we're ready to answer questions if there are any questions for us.
Any questions for General Counsel? All right, let's go ahead and move on. Communications with commissioners.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Fishman.
Just an alert to the commission that the renewable energy rule is just about ready, and I think will be on the agenda for next week or the week after. That's for issuing a NOPR. So just wanted to get everyone up to speed on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Fishman. Any other announcements or matters from commissioners? All right, I just wanted to mention that we have a pre-rulemaking stakeholder engagement workshop to kind of kick off the transportation electrification rulemaking. We're also working on a general transportation electrification summit sometime in June to kick off the statewide dialogue on transportation electrification, and also include key stakeholders as the state is poised to receive millions of dollars in federal infrastructure money to begin locating and building transportation electrification infrastructure throughout the state. There is an August 1st deadline to develop the plan before the federal funding will flow. And I feel that our agency, since we really dipped our toes in the transportation electrification water first by adopting 3 plans by each of the 3 IOUs, I think it's critical that the statewide plan consider and seamlessly integrate the existing 3 transportation electrification plans. We have Mary Jane Parks taking the lead on that in conjunction with GridWorks. So we're very happy about that. That's all I had. Is there any other comments or anything else from commissioners?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Hall.
Let's see, tomorrow on May 5th, we have another webinar in our grid modernization rulemaking process. This one will be on non-wires alternatives. So it should be very, very interesting. That's at 10:30 a.m. And there is a Zoom link which has been distributed, but I don't know if it's been distributed to all commissioners. If anybody's interested, they should contact my assistant, Colin. It goes, let's see, no, wait a minute. No, this time is different, 9 a.m. to 10:30. This says Pacific time, so that would be 10 a.m. to 11:30 Mountain Time. 10 a.m. to 11:30 Mountain Time. And I strongly encourage everyone to attend it because these are very, very informative webinars that discuss all the latest opportunities for development of our grid in our state. So I just want to make that mention. This is done virtually.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hall.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Fishman.
So just 2 follow-up comments. One on the rulemaking and the location of charging stations. El Paso Electric had an event where they had a bunch of people bring out their electric cars and have people come by and ask questions. And actually the CEO of El Paso Electric was out there talking to the public and showing her electric car there, which was terrific. And people had tons of questions about where charging stations are going to be and, ideas about how to, where they could be that would really help them as car owners or potential electric car owners. So it's great that we're working on that. Second, on Commissioner Hall, I have not had a chance to attend live any of the meetings, but I have had a chance to catch up on them afterwards. They're on the GridWorks website, and you can listen in on the meetings. And they really have raised some terrific issues, folks who were participating. And I advise folks who've missed meetings like I have to get on the website and take a look and catch up, because a lot of really good insights and information from those meetings. So that's it. That's it.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I appreciate Commissioner Fishman saying that. I've done that myself. I had to miss the first one. And they're on the GridWorks website, very prominently displayed and well worth listening to. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you, commissioners. And I just wanted to mention the date of the workshop on transportation electrification. Again, this is the pre-rulemaking stakeholder engagement workshop, is going to be on May 12th. We'll make sure and get invitations out to all the commissioners if they haven't already gone out. All right, anything else for the good of the order? All right, hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.